This. Okay, we're good to go.
Welcome, everyone. Apologize for the delay. We had some technical difficulties, but I call this meeting to order now for February 27th, 2024. Council meeting of council, and we'll start at 6:11. This meeting will be held in a hybrid manner where members of council, staff, and the public can participate on the conference. Meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the township website. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with the Municipal Freedom of Information Policy Act, that all information contained during the meeting is considered a part of the meeting. All rules apply to the meeting as if everyone was attending in person, and if there is a problem with the technology impacting the proceedings of the meeting. At this time, I would ask anyone who can to rise for the national. Acknowledge that we are being hosted on the ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee Society. We acknowledge and welcome the presence of all Indigenous people, including the Meeeting, Pecuniary, and other First Nations across this vast land. Also, the lands we are on today are recognized in the Chura Wampum District Sun's Bloom Tree, 327 in this province. Item is confirmation of the agenda. The mover for the adoption of the agenda and to read the motion. Yeah.
I move that the agenda of the February 27th, 2024 meeting of council be adopted as certain.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Creighton. All in favor, raise a hand. Motion has passed. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest?
Your Worship, I'm just going to abstain on item 11 too, as I requested to bring on the panel myself.
Any other declarations of pecuniary interest of the general need there? Deputy Mayor? And you'll put in the application. Notice any other items of preliminary? None. We have no closed session. We will move into statutory public meeting. For a public meeting, housekeeping amendments.
Nothing further to add, your worship. This is just a report bringing forward amendments to the official plan from a housekeeping nature. So just some minor omissions and errors from the previous official plan review, as well as established policies to reflect some any of the changes to the law or bylaw or additional.
Public then, for comments on this, I have, now I have 3 people on the list, and I just wanted to make sure, was this that you wanted to speak to, or do we see during open forum regarding another item of development? Basin? Yes.
Let me speak to the legacy
Okay.
in that.
Okay, so that'll come under open forum, so I'll just, and there was a Ham comment. Is it the same?
Yes.
Okay, and David Salter,
Yes. Same thing.
same thing, okay. And have another one for open forum as well. Okay, so, with this, public meeting then, is there anyone in the audience in chambers that wishes to speak on this item that's before us now? Seeing none. I'll go to the virtual audience. Is there anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak to the statutory public meeting? If so, please use the raise hand.
For you, your worship, I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
Portion of it then. So. First is the removal of the wish to read a recommendation on any fund. Councilor Creighton.
Report from Development Services Division. 2024 and other committees and recommendation report. Housekeeping amendments to the Loyalist official plan be received and that too, the official plan amendment number 42 be enacted and passed. And 3, bylaw 2024-26 being the bylaw to adopt Loyalist Township official plan amendment 42 be enacted.
So moved. Do we have a second? Councilor Booth. Any comments from the voters? Seconder? Any other members? We now call the question. Favor? Motion is passed. Open forum. So. Council sets aside 15 minutes of the meeting for open forum. Any individual may address council regarding any item on the agenda, excluding matters under the statutory public meeting section on the same agenda. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. Anyone wishing to speak can register in advance with the clerk's division or use the raise hand feature in the Zoom. We do have some signed up to speak this evening, so I will go through that list and then I will go to the one. June, please. You can give your name and then provide.
My name is Jean Mason. I live at 127 Dr. Lane. I have sent in my comments earlier to council, so I'm not going to read all that. It's well. However, I hope that you will take the time to take all those things into consideration. I've got a few comments here that I'd like to just highlight. First of all, I want to thank the staff for a very detailed presentation. 150 pages, took a while to go through. So thank you very much for the work that they have done. I also understand that the final, or maybe not the final, but a detailed plan of subdivision will be submitted to the township once this plan has been approved. I'd like to make sure that we see some of those details in the future. So I'd like to make sure that somehow we get notified of the next version of the plan and the details that come from it. A particular interest in that I'm looking for is information on things like landscaping, grading, and fencing, which details of those things are not in the report as presented. I'd also like to get more information on the design of the homes, the types of elevations and the other details that might be pertinent to the development. I'm also still very concerned about the parking that spillage over from the Legacy Court onto Main Street. I'm hoping that that will be considered by council. Given the impact of global warming and the risk of flooding and erosion that is known to happen with the creek that runs the full length of the subdivision, I would like council to make sure that those issues are addressed. Right now, it looks like the developer has given the entire creek area to the Loyalist Township for maintenance. And I'm just wondering how that will happen, because there's no access at present to that area. It was named hazardous by the Cataract Lake Conservation Authority. And it's bounded on all sides by fencing or private property. So I'm just wondering how that access for maintenance and care will be there. Also, because of the setbacks that have changed, the flooding, I just wanted to reiterate, and we've stated this before, so it's not new to you, I'm sure, that the risk of flooding and damage to the property, because council or Loyalist Township will approve the subdivision, they share the liability of those flooding, and there's only one payer for any liability there, and it's taxpayer. Finally, I'd like to say that had this subdivision been put within the golf course community or Windermere Estates, it probably wouldn't generate as much interest from the Bath community. But because it's on the main street in the core of the village, it's a very different location. It is in an area where there is heritage buildings and buildings surrounding it, where both have a mix of heritage from 100 years old, 50 years old to 300 years old. So I would like to hope that council will keep that in mind, so that when the architecture, when the design of the buildings comes before you to be approved, that those things be somewhat kept in mind, so that the architecture of the core of the village remains compatible with it. So I trust that council will take all these concerns into consideration. And as the process, as the project moves forward, I hope that you will give it the thoughtful consideration that it's due. Thank you.
On the list, but
Councillor, staff, and attendees. I read the report. I think there's a lot of loopholes in that possibly taken advantage of before we know what's going on. The main thing I am worried about is the drainage in the water. I live on the lake. When there's a heavy rain, the creek picks up a lot of mud and soil and dirt and garbage and brings it down into the lake. And we are experiencing a lot of, when it rains hard, we get muddy water, murky water, and it's gray. You can actually see the outline of this outflow of the creek into the lake. And as a result, I have noticed that the bottom, which used to be a nice limestone shelf, is now covered with mud and dirt, I guess you'd call it, but this would be pretty pleasant to walk in. And I'm just concerned about, environmentally concerned about adding more to this problem that we have of moving the lake any more than it is. Because this will affect the fish and the wildlife. Already this year, we have brown gobies who are in the lake. Last year, we had tons of them. They were all over the place, and they are an invasive species. But this next year, this past summer, they sort of disappeared. So they didn't even like it. Anyway, I'm concerned about the traffic. There should be no parking on the street there. If anyone parks, will cause. Also, I'm concerned about there being an area for children to play. I see that there is a lot set aside. I don't know if it's set aside for playground or anything else. You know.
Unfortunately, this portion of the
I can
meeting is
ask.
just to receive
Okay.
questions, but
That's fine.
I'm sure that
That's fine.
staff can answer the question.
Yeah. So, our counselor isn't here tonight, but, Bath has grown a lot in the last little while. And the traffic on Highway 33 is heavy now. Trucks, road graders, dump trucks, cement trucks. And so adding any one little car or anything on the road is going to cause trucks having to veer into the oncoming lane to get past it. So there should be no parking there. And then I hope if the park is established there, that will help for kids as well, because they will have nowhere to play except to get out onto the Highway 33 and go down to Maple Shores, which is a long way for a little child to go. And there's no playground there. And ride your bike here right beside the traffic that's coming along. It scares me sometimes. And I understand there was one man who was hit by somebody. He was on the sidewalk. He just got hit by somebody else. And also for the children to go to the playground at Centennial Park, it's the same thing. It's a long, long way for a little child to go. And I think it's incredibly dangerous. So I'm hoping that there will be a park. And then there was comment that, 19 semi-detached homes will go a long way to, up the number of semi-detached homes in Loyalist Township. Well, 19 homes isn't really do very much. We do have semi-detached homes in Loyalist Township. We've got hundreds in Amherst now, and probably just as many in Odessa. It's not like we need to push and get as many townhomes or semi-detached homes on that little tiny piece of land. I think the density is too high. Other than that, I'm going along with what is happening, as long as the subdivision is looks nice on the highway. I mean, it's a tourist destination for people to drive along Highway 33 out to Adolphus Town to go apple picking and to go to the food trucks, and so you really need to keep it as a tourist. Draw people in. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for the opportunity to speak to you. You're probably aware that the concerned local citizens and residents have studied this documentation extensively. We're very surprised that our planning department have ignored practically all of the 10 waivers requested by the developers' planners. It's made by the impacted residents of the last council meeting on this topic and by other communications raised important objections, particularly to the density of the proposal. Council something to think about rather than understanding the development plans. Now, as a homeowner, one day Factory Lane in one of your oversized lots described as a township, I want to preserve my investment at a location where I've lived for 36 years. Also, it's a waterfront homeowner. I've been paying considerably more in property taxes than your quoted average, so I'm doubly interested. I will speak about the density of the project. I want to introduce some simple mathematics here. The 19 residential units is considered most buyers are likely to be young families, not senior citizens looking for a retirement home. Let's assume that each family consists of 2 adults and 1 child. That equates to 19 homes times 3, which is 57 people in this so-called low density development. If, say, 3 families have 2 children, one grandparent living, we have 60 people on this piece of land. Let's assume then also that there are 1 or 2 cars per household, supposing there are 1.5 cars on average. That means really 30 cars are going to be on the lot there. Where are they going to be parked? The garages, you think? I believe these houses are going to be built slab on grade with no basements. In that circumstances, people will tend to be storing their extra possessions in the garage. You can imagine a lot of cars parked on the limited driveways and overflowing onto the road. This will be a pretty busy neighborhood overall. Specs I can summarize and say this is not at all consistent with the surrounding residential environment, well-established single-family homes on oversized lots. With virtually none of the buffering that's supposed to separate disparate building developments. And with all the accoutrements that come with the house, garden, sheds, bicycles, garbage bins, etc., I think we'd be looking at an eyesore in a short time and totally inconsistent with the present neighborhood that currently exists. And one more comment to make on density. Township planners have created what I think is a dangerous precedent here. My property is an oversized lot. What the following characteristics? It's 0.133 hectares, which is about 0.33 acres, just over 14,000 feet. Now, my oversized lot, according to the planner's description, and 31 residential units per hectare, would allow for 4 residential units on my lot. Lot coverage of 35%, which you don't need to exceed, would allow 5,000 feet of foot coverage. So you can have 4 residential units of a modest 1,250 square feet per unit. It would still meet the allowed density. Alternatively, if I ask just for a modest increase in just one limit, the height allowance, on the same building foundation plan, which is 40 by 40 feet or 12.2 by 12.2 meters, I could put up a 4-story building. By agreeing to all the waivers in the official plan, you'd be creating a dangerous precedent and opening a can of worms for future developments, I believe. So I urge you to defer a decision on the legacy home proposal and request a less dense alternative, something that meets the official plan limits. Now, I just wanted to say one further comment on the creek they're calling the raised. The properties on the creek, we regularly see the overflow of silt coming down and it goes out into the lake. We've dredged that property 3 times in 36 years. We have a sailboat, and that's considerable expense. And now we're at least 2 to 3 feet, say 1 meter of extra silt on the rock which we dredged down to. So it's a real potential problem, especially if more silt comes down the ground.
Thank you. And next speaker that signed up was Mike Sewell.
Evening, Your Worship and Council. Thanks for having us tonight. I just look at my comments regarding the same subdivision that we've already heard about. I'd like to frame this sort of under the terms of missed opportunity as opposed to perhaps opposing development. I just think that development's good, but I think in this case we may have missed an opportunity, and I'll a couple of reasons why. So number one, we seem to have increased setbacks from the first plan, and I realize this what we received online just recently. It's not the final plan, as we've already heard. So the setbacks have been increased, which is great for the creek in one sense, but on the other hand, that means that we have to take some of the other property remaining and make it more developed to make up for the loss of the land. So it's good and it's bad. Number two, which leads right into that, is the stormwater management plan. Now, it wasn't attached, and I understand that that's final plan still to come. But again, as we've already heard, there's a lot of it's unclear to me, given the proximity to the holding pond, which is already on the opposite side of that property. Now, I realize it's not their holding pond, but there is a holding pond there already. There is some wildlife there, but that pond then dumps into the creek, which dumps into the lake. And if then on top of that, we're going to add another 19 units, I'd be really curious to see what this new plan looks like. We're talking about a lot of asphalt, a lot of concrete, a lot of property. That water has to go somewhere. And as we've already heard, there already is a problem with that creek. And so the stormwater management plan really is something I would like to see. And I'm not sure how we're going to get access to that or if we're going to see it in final form. The traffic is also not attached. Again, there's a final traffic study apparently to come. Again, the traffic impact is already great. We've already heard that. And I would second that. Again, we're talking about no through street, but there's an access to 33. We're talking about a great number of cars, and thank you for giving that mathematical presentation. That was great. What about the pedestrian study? Where do the pedestrians fit into this? And so in those traffic plans, they study cars, perhaps, trucks, perhaps, there's lots of heavy equipment. But I'd also like to know in that study, we can talk about the cyclists and the walkers that go by that daily. That has to also factor into the traffic plan, which I think is going to be a challenge, once again, given the location of this property. The next piece of the tree preservation plan, again, it wasn't attached. I'm just curious, has there an inventory been taken? And will it be indigenous to the community, whatever this landscaping plan or tree preservation plan looks like? Again, I'd kind of like to have an idea what that's going to look like. As we've seen a lot already this last few months, there's been a lot of the ash trees coming down. And I understand all the reasons for that. But what's the plan going forward for new development, particular subdivision on a really small, tiny footprint? There's no provision in this document about any sort of architectural compatibility. And now again, I'm not saying we have to mandate compatibility. I don't know that we could do that, but at the same time, it would be really nice if we had some sort of standard. And I'm not sure if the township has that. Do we have a standard? Do we have some sort of architectural standard that we would like that would perhaps keep it on brand? There's a particular brand in this community, and I think we all know that brand is heritage, it's village life, it's that sort of coastal living, really lovely, quaint scenario that we all idealize. How are we preserving that? We have the Fairfield Gutset House just being down the road, being preserved. Is that the model? And if that is, that's fantastic. How are we actually saying that and telling developers that's what we're trying to achieve? The next piece is, in 2024, I'm struggling with this idea that we're going to get 5% cash in lieu of parkland. And again, I don't understand that. As a municipality, I personally think that cheats the residents. To allow a developer to walk away with just a 5% cash payment instead of parkland, once again, that misses a huge opportunity. Bath is a very walkable, enjoyable, pleasant place to be, and we have an opportunity to create something here that could be very special, and we're just going to let them get away with a 5% parkland designation with just paying the sauce. And I'm questioning that particular piece. It's really difficult. And then finally, the notion of changing the zoning in the ZBA they're requesting. Don't get me wrong, highway commercial is probably not the right zoning at this point in time, but they're requesting to change it to R4 with an H15 designation. And again, that may be good if it was perhaps in the golf course. I don't see any problem with that. But we also have in our definition of zoning, we have village commercial. And to me, a missed opportunity here is if we had some sort of a blended opportunity for both commercial, retail, and possibly residential at the same time, we have an opportunity to make it a destination as well as a residence. And perhaps there's some work there to be done.
So just in your time is over, so just.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I thank you very much, Mayor. I just want to add those. Finally, one last point. If there was an opportunity to have more input with the builder, I would certainly be happy to be part of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the in chambers that wishes to speak to this? If none, I'll go to the virtual audience and ask the virtual audience if there's anyone who wishes to speak to this. Please use the raise hand feature. We can bring you with it.
Your worship, I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
You. So that concludes the open forum portion of the forward items for consideration. We have recognition for Kevin and Leland and the funding of vacancy for the Committee of Adjustment and Appeals Committee. We have a recommendation in the report, and I would just ask, is there a member of council that would wish to move the recommendation? That
to that council receive the resignation of the Adjustment and Appeals Committee. Through the council appoint Justin James to the Committee of Adjustment and Appeals Committee. Including the bylaw 2024-29, bylaw to amend bylaw 2024-8, bylaw to appoint members. Adjustment.
Any comments from
Just that, Mr. James.
Council? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is. Approval of federal province conferences and Madam Clerk, if there's anything further to add to this.
Through you, Your Worship, I would like to ask council to indulge in an amendment. So since the publication of the agenda and the report, I received a request from the Deputy Mayor to attend the FCM conference as well as along with Councillor Broderick's request. I would just request, I'm just asking now to if you would indulge in an amendment to add, to also approve the Deputy Mayor's request at the same time.
Down for us. So I just want to double check. You take a motion then to amend and add that to the recommendation.
Since it's a staff recommendation that has changed, I would just request that you add the Deputy Mayor's name to the second clause.
Council, we have the recommendation for us. And we asked it in the second one to just include the Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor comment. Well, is there a number of council wishes to make a motion? Recommend
that the board person participated in the 27th for approval to attend the town conference for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities annual conference that Creighton will be received, and that council will approve Council Broderick and Deputy Mayor Town's request to attend the 2024 Federation of Canadian Municipalities annual conference of Creighton will be held in Calgary from June 6th to June 9th.
So moved. A second. Councillor Ennis. Over any comments?
Straight that I we're trying to improve, get back. Great.
Second. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Amendments, miscellaneous fees and charges. Is there anything that I've been? Council, we have a recommendation attached to it, the report. If someone wishes to move this and make a motion. Deputy Mayor.
I would move that the report of the Finance Department, February 27, 2024, read 2024 budget, amendments, miscellaneous fees and charges be received, and the bylaw 2024-32, being bylaw to amend, these things that miscellaneous fees and charges bylaw be enacted and passed.
So moved. Do we have a second? Councilor Clark. Comments from the board? Seconder. Anyone else? All the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Federal Drain Loan Request Amendment. Anything to add here, or is it just? Council, we have a recommendation before us. Is there anyone that wishes to make a motion? Councilor Fresh.
Recommendation that the report from the Finance Commission is February 27, 2024, the federal drainage loan request amendment we received, and that to a bylaw 2024-25, a rating bylaw including specifying the drainage rates on land in respect of which money is for and under the Federal Drainage Act to be enacted.
So moved. Seconded by. Any comments from the mover?
Just that it's something that our taxpayers need to
comments? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion has passed. Update to the property standards. That's property. I'm just. We have the report and recommendations. Of course, is there anyone wishing to make a motion? About the project?
Based on the report on economic growth and community development services department dated February 27, 2004, we update the property commission and state property bylaw. That bylaw 2024-28 being a bylaw to regulate property standards be enacted and passed, and that 3A bylaw 2024-27 being a bylaw to regulate state property be enacted and passed.
So moved. Do we have a second? Not sure. Mover. Any comments from the mover?
Well, I'd like to thank staff for this. It has been an item that has come to my attention through several residents, and that part of sort of the plan of action is allowing certain more natural areas to grow within properties, and I think we're working on that.
Seconder? Seeing none, call the question. In favor? Motion has passed. Like phase 6 and of subdivision. And like phase 2, stage 5 and subdivision. Function of importance. Added to this or just very? There's a report of recommendation reports. Is there any member that wishes to present? Councilor
Move that. From the Public Service Division in February 27, 2024, replace that phase subdivision, replace that phase 2 station subdivision, assumption of 1. And to the bylaw 2024, being found in the state of reserves, described in block 47, and like
by the deputy. Mover, any comments? Anyone else? None. Call the question. In favor? Motion is passed. Contract. Is there anything to add at this time or just?
Mr. Mayor, just go over the
township staff is that? That's the question. This time, we're township staff have reviewed it with agencies, and we're recommending approval of the draft subdivision zoning and official plan amendment for 196 Middle Street. When we look at the official plan, the redesignation from commercial to low density residential gets into the existing neighborhood with low density uses to the north, south, east, and west of the property. Of course, directly north is Anthem Creek, but beyond that is Lakeside Phase 8, which is low density residential use. Property question has direct access to Main Street. Short part to the west and downtown core to the east in walking distance of development. When we look at the official plan and the provincial policy statement, the county of Lawrence and Anthem official plan, all of our official plan, the county's official plan, sort of cascade through the provincial policy statement, as they all have common elements. So I'm not going to go into each document and put the excerpts. That's but I'll just say when staff did review it, we looked at the developments, the infilling development within the township in the urban area, which utilizes existing services, not extending any services. It's provides housing form, semi-detached. Yes, there are semi-detached in that, but not with quantity of semi-detached. It doesn't provide a housing form available township-wide. There are semi-detached, but generally there's more semi-detached than semis in the township, as well as the compact form of the development that's presented. And I don't think we have it up on the screen, but it's a fairly compact form which meets for provincial policy, and it still provides sufficient amenity space for the future residents of the proposed development. The density, I know that's been questioned a bit. The density of it. The density comes in 25.3 units per net hectare, which under the low density residential, 31 units are permitted. So it's well under the required density. We did look at a number of studies. A traffic brief was completed. In review of that traffic brief, that really the conclusions that came with that. But generally, they really didn't seem to generate much traffic concerns in the network. As well, traffic, we did look at parking. And the parking, that there's a lot of sections. I foresee that some bit of detailed design that potentially will be on-street parking in the cul-de-sac. As well, there's concerns with the cul-de-sac and the size of it. We did work with Public Works and EMS, and the cul-de-sac was enlarged to meet the requirements to have safe access for plowing and emergency services. Is required to the province. A record of site condition was imposed on the property and dealt with, and has been registered with the province, and no contaminants are found. Bath Creek, of course, is located in the rear of the property, and as sort of path safety and such, to detailed design, we can impose things like fencing and that type of those types of requirements. In consultation with the CRCA, there's an erosion hazard and slope stability report to take a good look at the proposal. We can in comparison to the location of Bath Creek, and it was approved by through the CRCA and township staff under review. Tonight, scan. Approved. I did get another question was access regarding maintenance of the creek. Yes, it will be given to the township for maintenance purposes. The township does own land on the north side abutting the creek, and this was vetted through Public Works, who had concluded that there's suitable access on the north side to do any kind of maintenance, because if you remember the first iteration of south side access, which through consultation of Public Works said he did access it.
Stormwater sanitary services are located at the front of it, crossing Main Street, which we extended into the development with recent upgrades at the back. As I'm sure you know, there's now sufficient capacity to support the proposal. Moving forward, that would be a recommendation. One of the recommendation staff would be to allocate capacity for the development. Cash in lieu of parkland is being requested. We did circulate the rec department and township kind of moving away to smaller parks. There will be a small park in this township. It's a very tiny parcel, essentially not, you know, it's here. With, 18, about 18 being semi-detached and one being a single family unit. So the movement of the Parks Department is, I think, operation. Pickle Shore Park is steps down the road to the west. Yeah, it's a little bit of a walk, but we do have a Holly Court. There's a park as well off Country Club in Holly to the east, and there's quite a few parks with that should serve business. Cash in parklands being requested. That's west, and that refurbishes the state. Taylor Kid, natural parkland there, so yeah. So yes, we did back in the day purchase some of Ferris Bay lands as part of our parkland lighting. But as I said, these days I think we're just going to refurbish those parks. From the zoning perspective, the reduction of lot area, lot frontage, front yard, rear yard, there's quite a few changes there. Our zoning bylaws fairly old, so there are quite a few changes. But when I do review it, from my perspective, a lot of those setbacks are actually help to make this development fit into the streetscape better, whether it be the front yard setback and single detached house. When you look at the drawing, it actually is a setback more than the existing houses along that side, as well as when you look at the development lot coverage 38.9, we're seeing lot coverages in the 40s, upper 40s now, and other developments. This is actually, to be quite honest, this is actually side yard setbacks are fairly reasonable, still provide ample maintenance, room for maintenance. You know, that's always a consideration, maintenance and drainage, and still provides ample room for drainage and maintenance of the future homes. So people can modify siding or do whatever they need. There's still ample again, that reduction in floodplains is another issue that again, to approach 50 setback. That's not sure. I think CRCA generally would allow something to be down to 60 meters. Which is that generally when you're looking at water courses and so 2 weeks would be my perspective. We did a site triangle. There's a site triangle reduction. We did make the developer go through a process. We're always nervous about reducing site triangles and such. In this case, with it being an infilling lot, they prepared a memo that was circulated to Public Works and was deemed acceptable. They're essentially the site triangle portion is 9 by 9 meters. They're keeping 9 meters on Main Street, but they reduced it on this line of court by to 5.4 meters to help with driveway access, and it was deemed to not have any issue, which this right of way is pretty large, so still great 7 times a picture off issues. The development is within 500 meters of Lafarge. So our zoning bylaw has a provision in that that triggers a compatibility study, which we performed. We also met with staff at Lafarge. They had no issue with the development being developed there within their setback. Of course, when you look at it, there's so it should be noted that we didn't have in our public meeting circulation that clause that reduces that 500-meter setback. And so we're one of our recommendations is allowed through the Planning Act if council wishes require public. Yes, let's call it. So the recommendation, if council approves that, then we wouldn't have to go through the public meeting for this because staff would be the public. The other recommendations are typical reduction of the zoning bylaw, official plan amendment, the adoption of draft plan of subdivision, plus the 1 to 48 conditions of draft plans. That's for the first recommendation. Council wishes to make a motion, and if you make the one with the recommendation, just reading the 6 recommendations and then noting that it includes conditions for 1 to 48. Dr. Gilbert?
I recommend that the 14 as well. My apologies, sir. Recommendations of the report from the Development Services Division, February 27, 2024, RY Contractor Incorporated Legacy Draft Home Plan Subdivision D12-292-2021, Official Plan Amendment D09-002-2021, and Zoning Bylaw Amendment D14-009-2021 be received. That the inclusion of the setback from the extractive industrial zone in the proposed zoning bylaw 2024-23 does not require further notice as per section 34 of the Planning Act, that 19 units of capacity be allocated within the bath water treatment plant, bath sewage treatment plant for development located in part of lot 9, broken front section and address 496 Main Street located in the village of Bath. That RY Contractor Inc. and Legacy Homes application to amend the official plan E09-002-2021 be approved, and that bylaw 2024-22 being a bylaw to adopt Loyalist Township plan amendment number 43 be redesignated that the subject land from commercial to low density residential be enacted and passed. RY Contractor Inc. and Legacy Homes application to amend the zoning bylaw E14-009-2021 be approved, and that bylaw 2024-23 being a bylaw to rezone the lands from highway commercial C2 zone to residential type 4 exception 15 voting R4 15-H zone be enacted and passed, and that RY Contractor Inc. and Legacy draft, or sorry, my fault, not a reading. Legacy Home Draft Plan Subdivision Application B12-292-2021 be approved, and subject to the following conditions being applied to the approval listed below.
Condition 1 to 48.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. So you have a second. Roger? Any comments?
Do know a lot of contractors and home builders in the day job, and I've noticed that there's been a lot of starts and not a lot of completions. This is someone that's trying to build some houses that hopefully could be within the affordable range that we can get some people move into and maybe get a first house purchase.
Second or any comments?
Thank you. My only comments would be that in that the bill are also taking into consideration the comments that the presidents have made. And particularly in the parking and the one interesting thing, at some point, I think Township needs to have a discussion about the 5%. That's just a number that really doesn't mean much to me. And just as again, the aesthetics, the architecture that fits in as best as possible with the heritage focus of
Any other comments? Councilor Rice.
I apologize. The sound is terrible this evening, so I'm missing part of the comments. I won't be supporting the motion as it's written right now because I agree with many of the comments that came from the public today and feel that a subdivision that's starting by ignoring our official plan and zoning bylaw is not necessarily in the best interest of the community. And I don't think that this level of density is appropriate for this setting.
Any other comments? None? Over five comments? None? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is passed. Developer agreement for Potter section south Main Street, Odessa.
The comment you made, acceptable, you already made up your mind on all of this?
No, am I in a council meeting right now? The time is for them to definitely. Further input or just your input? We have a report with recommendations. A number of ways to move that and. Move the report of the engineering and environment division, February 27, 2024, the developer agreement of Potter, Creighton, Main Street, Odessa, Reconstruction, received. Include the council authorized the mayor and chief administrative officer to enter into the developer agreement with Great Creek, Mill Street, and the county of Anthem, pending final terms and conditions that are acceptable to the county township. So, seconded by Councilor Creighton. Any comments from the room? Here. Else? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Signage options for County Road 6 and Taylor Kid Boulevard. Anything to add?
No, just here, questions.
Also, we have the recommendation report for a member that wishes to make a motion. Councilor Ennis.
You move that report from the engineering and planning division, 27, Spanish options, County Road 6 and County Road 20, Alberta, received, and to staff feature to include Loyalist Township firing.
I'll move. We would have a second. Councilor Ruth. Over comments? Seconder. Anyone else? Councilor Brown.
gave a draft flow that these where they give a focus on everybody can open that. I will have reference in the report. I've driven by that many times and it certainly is a change area. Like
None, all in favor? Motion is passed. Now, I would entertain a motion for council involved in the projects on road second time. All in favor?
Going else for two.
Consideration. 13.4.11, blue box transition.
Evening. The purpose of this presentation tonight is to bring council up to date on the Blue Box program transition to producer responsibility. The program has been variously called the extended producer responsibility or full producer responsibility from time to time. But the important change to note is the Blue Box program is changing from a shared model of responsibility to one that places exclusive responsibility on producers of Blue Box materials. This slide is intended to provide a sampling of the various agencies and stakeholders having some role to play in the overall Blue Box transition program. It also includes acronyms for some of the terms that were in the presentation in the company report. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's one we use most of the time. So I would like to highlight a few of them. CMO is Circular Materials Ontario. MSA is a Master Services Agreement. PRO is a Producer Responsibility Organization. RIPRA is the Resource Productivity and Recovery Authority. So what is producer responsibility? Under a producer responsibility system, companies that make and import products are responsible for their waste. Ontario is transitioning from a shared industry responsibility to one of a full producer responsibility. In the current Blue Box program, municipalities bear costs for collection and processing. They are compensated by producers at 50% of the cost based on a formula which includes the revenue generated from the sale of recyclable materials in the marketplace. And after transition, producers will incur the full cost of collection and processing, but will retain 100% of the revenues from the sale of the Blue Box materials. Ontario is the birthplace of the Blue Box system. The first curbside recycling program started in Kitchener in 1981. It became a blueprint for recycling programs in more than 150 countries. But 80% of Ontario households had access to recycling services. Ontario's 1994 Environmental Protection Act required municipalities with a population of at least 5,000 to establish, operate, and maintain a Blue Box system. The municipalities were 100% responsible for the operation of those systems. And by 1999, 94% of households in Ontario had access to recycling services. In 2002, the Waste Diversion Act started moving Ontario toward the shared responsibility where municipalities receive partial funding for recycling services. And currently, municipalities receive approximately 50% of the collection available resources. In 2016, the Waste Free Ontario Act, Waste Diversion Transition Act, the Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act, along with Ontario Regulation 391/21, were adopted, starting the transition to a full producer responsibility system, where municipalities would no longer be responsible for funding recycling services. Loyalist is scheduled to transition to full producer responsibility July 1st, 2025. Prior to transition, the local municipality provides collection and processing services to its residents. The municipality provides annual reports to the Resource Productivity and Recovery Authority, or RIPRA, on the cost to collect and process those materials. RIPRA determines the payment obligations of the producers through Stewardship Ontario, with the municipality receiving approximately 50% of the annual net operating cost. After transition, the producers will work independently or with a producer responsibility organization, or PRO, and issue service provider contracts to collect and process recyclable materials. RIFR will provide regulatory oversight and collection targets. Municipalities may choose to serve as a service provider only if they successfully compete for contracts with private service providers. Similar to the previous slide, the responsibility for collection, processing, promotion, and education will become the responsibility for producers post-transition. Pre-transition, municipalities can choose which materials to collect through their own Blue Box program. This will change after December 31st, 2025, as materials collected will be consistent across the entire province. Residents could see some minor differences in what is collected at curbside or at the depot from that which is collected today. Promotion and educational programs will make residents aware of the acceptable Blue Box materials in the lead up to transition. Prior to December 31st, 2025, PROs must continue to pick up items that were collected in the Waste Diversion Transition Act Blue Box program as of April 15th, 2019. However, materials that were not designated under that act or under the Waste Diversion Transition Act will not be required to be collected. After January 1st, 2026, PROs must collect and accept all designated materials under the new regulation, but may stop collecting items not designated. What is the difference between a producer and a PRO? Well, producers include brand holders, importers, or retailers of products that contain Blue Box materials, including grocery, retail, and fast food packaging. The Blue Box legislation allows for more than one organization to represent producers of paper and packaging materials. And these organizations are called Producer Responsibility Organizations, or PROs. Each producer can decide which PRO to join, and may actually choose to join more than one. There are currently 3 PROs registered with RIFRA. Circle Materials Ontario, or CMO, has been designated as the primary PRO, representing a large number of producers, as you can see from this list. There are 2 other producers which have a smaller collection and to concentrate on things like tires and batteries and other items. And producers are not required to sign up with the PROs. They could work independently or can choose to work with multiple PROs. CMO has hired Reverse Logistics Group to administer their agreements. Loyalist Township will be required to have discussions with CMO and RLG in the coming months to ensure clarity on a range of topics, such as the Township's current Blue Box collection contractor, possible alignment Blue Box collection with solid waste collection, depot collection, number and addresses of new eligible sources, such as in development areas. CMO will oversee the common collection system, ensuring curbside collection and depot collection for all eligible sources throughout the province. Curbside contractors will deliver materials to receiving facilities for consolidation. After consolidation, materials will be delivered to the appropriate material recycling facility to emerge. The designated receiving facilities for Frontenac, Lennox, and Anthem counties, shown as C4 on this slide, will be the facility owned and operated by Waste Management on Dalton Avenue in Kingston. Municipalities currently collect recyclable materials from the same sources as residential garbage. However, the 50% funding does not include the cost for industrial, commercial, or institutional facilities, even if delivered through a municipal program such as our current program. Under the new regulations, schools, retirement, and long-term care homes, as well as specified public spaces, will become eligible for collection under the new program. Starting on our transition date of July 1st, 2025, PROs will be required to collect from all eligible sources already serviced as of August 2019 from new developments. PROs will not be required to collect from non-eligible sources. Public spaces have been included in the new legislation based on population density formula. Public spaces are defined as an outdoor area of a park, playground, alongside water transit stops. And producers will be responsible for providing and maintaining recycling receptacles based on the density formula. For Loyalist Township, this approximately equals 23 public spaces, where receptacles would have to be provided based on population. As noted earlier, current 50% funding does not include the cost of ICIs, even if delivered to a municipal program. While schools, retirement homes, etc., have been added to the eligible list, industrial commercial properties, not-for-profit organizations, municipal buildings or facilities, daycares, places of worship, grounds, and trailer parks without permanent or seasonal households, and commercial farms that are all considered non-eligible under the new regulations. Some properties may have both eligible and non-eligible materials, such as mixed-use properties or commercial properties in residential areas. And non-eligible materials must be separated from residential collection and service in alternative ways starting in 2026. Pros are not responsible to service non-eligible sources. During the 6-month transition period, pros are allowed to continue to service those non-eligible sources if the appropriate arrangements are made, with cost being the responsibility of the municipality. However, after the transition period, blended collection of non-eligible and eligible materials will not be permitted by the pro. Cities will need to decide whether to continue servicing these non-eligible sources separately. In Loyalist Township, there are approximately 24 small businesses and public sector facilities, such as municipal facilities, post offices, that are currently receiving blue box collection under our existing collection contract. There is a section of the report that speaks to eligible and non-eligible sources and what that means for Loyalists. A separate report will be brought to council in the future on this issue, and we just wanted to provide that information ahead of time for consideration. There is a lobbying effort currently underway by some municipalities to make all non-eligible sources eligible, and staff will encourage council to support these efforts. There will be a resolution from the Township of Prairie on the next council agenda concerning the matter. Of the 376 municipalities in the province, 67 municipalities have transitioned in 2023, 128 will transition in 2024, and 181, including Loyalists, will transition in 2025. The full extended producer responsibility will begin on January 1st, 2026. During the transition period, which for Loyalists is only 6 months, communities may opt in or out of providing collection or depot services. The staff report for consideration includes a recommendation that Loyalist Township opt out of providing both collection and depot services during the transition period. It was felt that we trying to enter into agreements with service providers for 6 months wasn't really worth the effort to just for that short period of time. So the curbside collection under an opt-in scenario for the 6-month transition period, the municipality, for curbside collection under an opt-in scenario, 6-month transition period, the municipality would continue to manage the box curbside services with an existing service provider and receive payments from CMO. Municipality would be responsible for the delivery to the designated receiving facility, like what is done now. Municipality would become a contracting CMO and would meet the contract requirements identified in the master service agreement and statement of work. If the council chooses to opt out, as recommended by staff, CMO would take over curbside collection on July 1st, 2025, and the municipality would no longer be responsible for managing or providing blue box curbside collection service, including customer service calls and promotion. Just a few additional considerations. If opting in, some of the reasons for opting in would be maintaining consistency over service delivery, such as continuing cold collection, scheduled routing of trucks. Funding would be based on data, 2020 data call, and would need to be determined if this was adequate for our costs, and we would need to provide proof that those costs have increased. We would need to ensure that we meet the CMO contract terms and contractor obligations. And municipalities would be responsible for a target of 4% contamination threshold and need to pay for collection, hauling, and processing of blue box materials from non-eligible sources. Under an opting out scenario, we would no longer need to manage the blue box service. However, some municipalities may need to open existing curbside contracts to unbundle blue box service. This isn't an issue for Loyalist as our contracts are structured to end on July 1st, 2025. Opting out does give the municipality less control over service delivery details during the transition period, such as co-collection of other materials no longer being options. Scheduling changes may occur and be less control over routing and different blue box service provider would likely occur. Savings from blue box budgets can be used for other services. We would need to secure an agreement with CMO blue box service provider to collect from non-eligible sources should the municipality choose to do so. The only depot operation in the township is currently at the Amazon landfill site, as there is no curbside collection on the island. The depot collection under an opt-in scenario during the 6-month transition period, the municipality would continue to manage the existing island collection depot. The municipality would become a contractor with CMO and continue to receive payments from CMO and continue to be responsible for hauling materials to the designated receiving facility, as well as the cost to rent collection bins. For depots, there is an alternative opt-in scenario where the township could continue to operate the depot during the transition period. However, CMO would be responsible for the hauling and delivery of materials, the cost of renting the bins, and CMO would compensate for costs to operate the existing site based on previous operating costs provided. Should the council choose to opt out, as recommended by staff, CMO would take over depot collection on July 1st, 2025, and the municipality would no longer be responsible for managing or providing blue box services, including customer service calls and promotion. The location of this depot could be changed, or CMO could enter into a site access agreement with the municipality to operate the facility at the location. Some additional considerations for depot, should council wish to opt in during the transition period. Again, the compensation is based on a percentage of the depot operating costs as reported in 2020 data call. And our preliminary calculations have indicated that compensation will not cover the operational costs. The township will be responsible to meet collection terms, including contamination thresholds. And the township would need to provide verification to CMO that non-eligible sources account for less than 25% to avoid overpayment for non-eligible sources, and would be responsible for the cost of hauling non-eligible sources estimated at around $200 per ton. Staff report for consideration also recommends that the mayor and chief administrator officer be delegated authority enter into contract and or agreements with CMO, other pros, contractors, or other relevant stakeholders as may be required to facilitate the township's blue box transition. It is anticipated that as the township approaches its transition date, the need to make rapid and timely decisions will escalate, and decisions at the senior management level will be a necessity. And then finally, I would add that I know this is a whole, and this will come back to council in 2 weeks. If after we've gone through questions tonight, if questions come up during the week that you want answered, I'm here until Thursday next week, and after that, I'm actually on vacation. So feel free to email me, and we can try and get those answers. Any questions?
Yes, I want to ask a question on, I don't know if you're at the stage yet, but the residents in what's in the difference.
I suspect we will notice some differences. Will be most likely there will be a different contractor collecting materials. For the most part, the materials are very, very similar to what we collect now. I did have a discussion with Park, who is our current collection or service provider for receiving materials. And the only thing they were really aware of that wouldn't be permitted is books. We currently permit books where the covers haven't been removed. they're not permitted under the new legislation. However, there may be other materials that currently don't collect that maybe that could be added to.
I'm sort of looking at this and thinking, okay, so this organization is going to take everything so grouting, and I know that I hear when recycling is an hour late, because people get so the township be able to consult with to set up routes and times, etc. Or are we giving away that right?
Our understanding. So again, the only way we keep that would be for the after the transition period between CNO and the contractor collecting the recyclable materials. That is all their responsibility. The municipality would have no say in the running of the operation beyond July or January 1st, 2026.
Last one. So this would be like a contract, any other contract will end at fixed time, and then it can be renegotiated with other partners, or is this something the government should sort of a limited amount of groups?
We would not, the only contracts we would enter into would be if we chose to opt in for the 6-month transition period, or if we decided to allow the contractor to operate at the existing Amazon site, in which case we would need to enter into a site access agreement with them, which would go beyond the transition date, the January 1st date.
Thank you. Through the chair. Just wanting a bit more information about the non-eligible sources. So I'm thinking about the Amherst Island Depot, and there are a number of not-for-profits. We have the school and some commercial entities. So would we be required to track to make sure that we weren't exceeding that 25% allowance, or how would that work?
That is correct. If we opted in during the transition period, we would be responsible to ensure that the non-eligibles are separated from the eligible sources. It would probably mean separate bins at the site. If we opt out, then if the CMO's contractor, if they were operating at our site or an alternative site, would be responsible. And actually, sorry, just to follow up on that, they would not take any non-eligible sources. It would only be eligible sources.
How would they identify that?
That'll be up to them to identify whether they're going to ask for ID or license, some sort of information when you enter the sites. I don't know how they intend to separate it. There's we are part of a number of groups that are involved in the transition. And this question is repeatedly coming up as to even in large urban areas where you have commercial businesses on the same street as residential, and a truck is going down the alleyway. How does it know which bin is eligible, which one's not eligible? There's a lot of questions, and with Ontario has just started transitioning as of July 2023, and we're continuing to monitor that very closely as to how that's being dealt with. And part of the resolution from the Township of Perry is asking is to basically eliminate the quote non-eligible, and everything would be considered eligible, which makes it a lot simpler process.
Questions. I'll save the statements for later. It says that we'll need to develop a process for manually collecting data on obligated materials supplied from the township. And it says that has to be, the data will need to be verified. Just curious what their requirement for verifying is for doing help. And if it's something internal, it's pretty minor. If it's audited, then that's an issue.
Currently, they have provided for that purpose or tracking. What the auditing will look like, I have no idea. We have to, I'm assuming we'll have to have some, proof of contracts where we send calendars that will be printed and the number printed and items like that, that we can, much like a financial or audited statement, that we ways them to confirm how much. It's only if we exceed that threshold of the 2 million in revenue, where we would actually get to the point that we would, no longer be a flat rate. At that point is probably when they really want to be auditing as to what those numbers are, and currently don't include.
Little different note, but it just made me wonder, right now we sell the blue bands and they would. With that, with us supporting recycling by selling those, do we know if that would go towards other volume or meeting that dollar value?
I would think not, because the bins themselves are actually not recyclable. And they're made from recyclable materials, but once they're put into that format, because of now whatever they do to make it that hard plastic, they're no longer recyclable. Any damaged bins end up.
Thank you.
Further question? It's like the recommendation. That the report of the community and customer services Department of Public Works Division dated February 24th, 2024, blue box transition update be received, and the following recommendations be adopted. That the delegated authority be given to the mayor, chief administrative officer, to make decisions, enter into contracts and or agreements with Circular Materials Ontario, other producer responsibility organizations, contractors, or other relevant stakeholders as may be required to facilitate the township's transition to full producer responsibility, and that Loyalist Township intends to opt out of providing contracted collection services for blue box materials on the mainland and depot collection services for blue box materials on Amherst Sound for the period of July 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025.
So moved, seconded. Woodring. You want comments? Seconded. Other statements by members? That's right.
I just want to make note that it was mentioned, there will be a resolution looking for support in the future. And I just want to, as I was reading this, I thought it's nice that the province included the provincially funded entities such as schools and everything, but I'd really like to see the not-for-profits, the person of worship, and some of our small businesses. The options for them would be very expensive for them, or very expensive for us.
And then I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Let's take a motion to adjourn. All Council Leader, second. Mayor, all those in favor?
Motion for notice. Motion. Are there any notices of motion? None. Ready to correct motion. None. Consent agenda. And can be separated. If any member of council wishes, and if you dealt with individually, are there any that wish to be separated? None. Do I have a mover for the recommendation. Councillor Willis. Can you read the recommendation?
Pardon me. I move that the items 14.1 to 14.3 in the consent agenda dated February 27th, 2024 be approved as presented and that the necessary action be taken.
Vote. Seconded by Councillor Ennis. Any comments from the mover? Seconder, the other members? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion has passed. And we are at announcements. Are there announcements from members before I make one? Councillor Cross.
I would just like to thank you all for Sally James, resident of Loyalist for a long time, her husband Richard, and coming on and passing her.
Any other items to see? There is one that I would like to make. P2, I guess, of being with the township, our new fire chief and director of emergency service, and Whitman. Joined Loyalist Township, started yesterday. Been a bit of a whirlwind, meeting a lot of staff and attending different places, and I look forward to what you're bringing to the township. Brings a great amount of experience and also a strong network provincially that he's obtained throughout his career so far, and that is a member of organizations that I believe will benefit the township as well as the province of Calgary. I want to welcome you and to Loyalist Township and look forward to working. Is there any other at this time? Seeing none. Do I have a mover for the confirmatory line? The mayor.
Moved by law 2024-33 to confirm the proceedings of the council of Loyalist Township be enacted in the past and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign this.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Prime. All in favor? Motion is carried. Motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor. Moved. Presentation of the meeting now be adjourned at 7:49. Do I have a second? Councillor Booth, all in favor? Motion is carried. We are adjourned.